Good to see everybody tonight. My name is Pit Kilmani-Van. I'm the regional manager for Freedom Equity Group, and it's a great night to have you all out here. I really wanted this event to bring out the community so that we could start learning together and understanding about financial literacy and culture. My story is that I worked for government forever, when I started my own business, I found out quickly that I didn't really understand retirement, didn't understand how to just understand how to move on with life insurance in general. So through that, I really want for the community to know now that I'm in financial services, and I feel that it will make Vermont stronger and more resilient in our future and the way that we manage and understand how to build our wealth. So tonight I have a group of individuals that are in the financial services and also one of our leaders in Vermont. Then they're going to be able to share their perspective on this topic. As first I have Kesha Rom Hinsdale. I've known Kesha for many years, and I've always known her as Rom. But she is the first woman of color senator, and she is also on the chair of the Economic Committee. And I don't know if you still hold the title, but you or the youngest legislator.
I was elected at the time. Mm-hmm. I hope since then.
Yeah, I think you still hold the title. I still think you hold the title, yeah. So we can claim that. So really appreciate you coming out and supporting this event. So here we go.
Yay! Well, good evening, everybody. They say dress for the job you want, and I'm definitely on mom duty right now, and really happy about that. But I appreciate that folks are here to learn more or here to help people learn more. It's funny, it's called Freedom Equity, because I find myself saying, and I think women have said this to me in the past, money doesn't buy you happiness, it buys you freedom. Correct. And that is, I think, the critical piece. A lot of people feel like they're unhappy talking about money, so they don't. But then when you have those moments where you wish you had agency, you had choices, you could choose your own destiny, you could leave a partner, you could get yourself to a better community, get your kids better opportunities, money buys you that. And so I'll tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm so passionate, and I would come out for one person on this topic, let alone people who are doing the work and those who are just learning about it, because I really do think it's life-changing once you have this information, and I think that's why people are so passionate about sharing it, and it's something that the more barriers you have to your family not talking about it, to not growing up around a lot of these conversations, it's hard to break into this world and build that self-sufficiency and freedom. So I grew up in Los Angeles. My familiar story, I think for a lot of folks, my father immigrated from India, and he fled the part of India that became Pakistan, made his way, they had money in the past, they had lost a lot of it, and he was rebuilding himself and getting himself through UCLA when he met my mother. My father remained till the day he died someone who hid money places he couldn't even remember where he put it. Much to our concern when we were cleaning out his apartment after he passed. And my mother got her MBA. She was a early woman to get her MBA from UCLA, but that only got her so far, especially at the time. Now we just hit, I think, the 51st anniversary of the Women's Credit Act. That's not a very long time, right? So, I'm 39, and my parents opened an Irish pub in Los Angeles, Indian immigrant, Jewish American. They ran an Irish pub in Los Angeles. of course. And they got the loan to open the pub from the Women's Bank of Los Angeles. So policy that opened up access to credit and financial freedom really shaped a lot of my life. I basically thought banks were just places full of women who smelled really good and gave you candy, and that was a great way to experience banking as a child. But certainly just a decade before, they would have been turned away from every single bank as an immigrant and a woman trying to start a business. So, grew up in an Irish pub. It was a great childhood, Mira. You're missing out. I'm not as exciting. But, well, she's growing up in the State House. But, my parents sort of had a lot of differences. My dad continued to be that person who, put money in paper bags and stapled it and wrote a note on it. And, they had too many differences of opinions, and they split up. And at that point, my father spiraled into losing the business, having our home foreclosed. My mother became a single mom and our more stable parent. She now lives in South Burlington and makes dinner every other night for the kids. So that's a totally happy ending there. But at the time, she was trying to raise 3 kids by herself. She filed for bankruptcy. She couldn't pay parking tickets, couldn't pay bills. It was, we pay rent and utilities, and if there's money left over, we have money for the grocery store. If there's not, she would tell her boyfriend at the time, I forgot my wallet, who's now my stepdad. Once I told that story without saying he's now my stepdad, and she got really upset about it. But so she was really too proud to take any help from anywhere else, but also really struggling, and we saw that, and we grew up with that stress. The reason that it's so important to me to be here after going through that for all of you is my parents still very much valued education, and we were privileged with books and access to good education in Los Angeles. And when I was a senior in AP Economics, I remember my mother got her MBA, and I thought, this is what she said teaches you about human behavior, not the master's in anthropology. She really drilled into us, you have to understand economics, even though she never talked to us about money. We never had credit around. I cashed my dad's checks at the bank for him. And our AP Economics teacher taught us all about macro and microeconomics, and it was incredibly boring, and the supply and demand curve, and then I chaired economic development. But after we took the advanced placement test, we had 1 day of class left. And he was like, I'm going to teach you what you actually need to know to make money and live a good life. And we were like, tell me more. We were all of a sudden paying attention. He'd been a great teacher. And I just don't know if the circumstances were different, so much in my life would be different. But a lot of us leaned in that day because we really valued this teacher. And he taught us about compound interest, and he taught us about universal life insurance, and he taught us about all of the financial tools that they don't teach you in AP Economics to get into college and get a lot of debt and go on with your life saddled with a lot of financial stress. So when I got to UVM, I said, I asked around and I said, my AP Economics teacher told me I need to find some account that builds compound interest, where do I get a Roth IRA, how do I start this? And bounced around from a few different people before settling on someone I felt like I could trust, you'd call a mechanic and say, what would you do if it was your car, right? Because if you find people you can trust who have just traveled this path before you, they're just telling you how to build that financial freedom. The market is incredibly regulated, it's transparent, and people are just trying to build your wealth to take a tiny portion of that, reinvest it in themselves, their business, and helping the next person. So, I think we all think, why is this person, telling me how to make money? Or is this when you buy 15 CDs for a penny when you're, when you were my age as a millennial? There's gotta be a catch. But truly, it took me sort of, not just my AP Economics teacher. I remember my father bought 3 copies of Suze Orman's book. I forget what it's even called. I have it though still. And he bought 3 copies. And she was like, your kids could share a copy. Like, this is about saving money. He's like, no. You know, he would just hoard books and buy a lot of books and newspapers. But he gave me that book, and I read it cover to cover, you know? And this was when I was in college I didn't have student debt. I went to UVM without student debt, which was critical. But that also meant I didn't have a credit card, and I didn't have any credit. So, you know, like, here I am just starting from complete scratch. My mother was like, I don't know how to tell you how to do any of this. And it was financial advisors who helped me figure out, you know, which accounts are interest bearing, how do you want to balance like checking and savings, and, you know, how do you want to build for your future. And so, you know, when I look at all these milestones I hit, I managed to save enough on my own without a whole lot of compound interest as a young person to buy my house from my landlord in Burlington after I graduated. So I ran for the legislature my senior year. And I think, so if I do the math, 3 years later, I bought that house from my landlord. And I was, you know, I was able to get a loan through like an angel investor locally. And then I will tell you, if you ever want to complain about the legislature, we passed this like thing that was supposed to protect consumers from predatory lending, and so we made that person pay the property tax, and then we had to pay the property transfer tax. And now I write laws about the property transfer tax, and I'm very mad we did that. You know, we took that provision away. But these are a lot of things that if you don't make these purchases or aren't price sensitive, legislators might not know that they're hurting a lot of people with laws that are meant to build wealth. And that's important to, like, my mother was too proud to ever take support. When you think about these systems that are supposed to be here to help you, it should be no secret to you all that they are engineered to keep you poor. Like, I hope I'm not trying to say, like, big reveal from the government. We study these policies. Vermont tries to be on the leading edge of policies that help you build wealth while you are rebuilding your life. But it's very difficult, and the federal government does not generally allow for it. So if you get a motel night, you can't have more than $20 in your pocket. You know, if you have a car, you're not considered in need for other services. If you work more than 25, 30 hours, you're often then taking a huge income dip because you're then paying more or even full freight for childcare and healthcare until you reach something like $80,000. So between $40,000 and $80,000, there is no help, and the system is incentivizing you to stay extremely low income, to essentially hover around the poverty level. And so, like, this is me, the chair of the Economic Development Committee, you know, the Senate Majority Leader, telling you, government alone will never get you there, right? Like, I was so glad I had teachers that made a difference in my life, and that Women's Bank of Los Angeles and free lunch, like, programs did help me. But then at some point, you're gonna have to take a huge leap of faith to be stable and enter the middle class and buy a car and buy a house. And that no one writes you the manual on how to do that except financial advisors. Really, except people who especially ones that aren't just working with the already very wealthy and figuring out how to make them more and more money, but people who are willing to start at a loss with you and just say, I will meet you where you are. I mean, when I was a college student, like, I probably wasted a lot of people's time having $0. Then I borrowed from my Roth IRA to pay for my wedding. Then I borrowed from it again, you know, to buy that house. Not my Roth IRA, my universal life insurance. This is where the financial advisors really matter. You know, but you build this little kit of financial tools in your 20s, and they make a huge difference. You can borrow from them almost tax-free or very low interest. They'll explain the rest, but truly, it gave me financial freedom that no one in my life could have helped me with, right? I didn't have a parent who was going to be like, here's $20,000 for your wedding, or, you know, to put down a down payment on your house. That was all money I borrowed from myself and knew I would get back in dividends in the future. So, you know, that's all to say. I don't want to be super down on government. We're trying to make these tools more transparent and available to people because they're that much of a public good. So I've worked with Treasurer Mike Pichek on things like Vermont Saves, so that everybody's getting access to a savings program that builds compound interest. And I had a woman come up to me at a church supper in Essex after the treasurer and I explained this, and she said, when I heard the term interest in my 30s, I ran away from it because I thought I would owe someone money. And now in my late 50s, I wish I had understood compound interest then. You cannot get that time back. And so the state, you know, is now trying to help unlock that freedom and economic empowerment for people and at least let them know these tools are available. But really nothing replaces someone in your community from your community who's explaining to you that this is for you, that this is your money working for you. I feel like I sound like a commercial at this point, but I mean, really, it should be life-changing for you. It should be life-changing for you. And that is why I'm here, you know, with my daughter who is clearly having fun with me, you know, on a Thursday evening, because I would truly have this conversation with anybody. Just like our AP econ teacher was like, I could let you guys go, you know, get in trouble, I could take a break, but I need you all to understand the financial tools that no one will explain to you otherwise. So when Pitt and the team asked me to do this, and we had both worked in city government, like we both have been part of programs that are supposed to help people survive, but they were never designed to help people thrive. This is the next step. This is what you have to do to have that freedom and that financial security, and give it to your kids. So thank you. I'm just like really passionate about this topic, obviously, and really happy that people are here to take this first step. You will not regret it. Like, I feel like there's so many weird cults and things that say that, but this is just about making your money work in the United States in a system that was designed for other people who already had money, and now you have access to these tools so that you can build a stable middle-class life and beyond. And I wish that for you, and I'm here to help whenever. I'll stay for a little bit, and I'll like see how.
Thanks, Kesha. That was like really eloquent, and you and I get each other. That's why when I first came into financial services, I was just like, why don't people know about this? And you were the first one I called to be like, we need to do it. Yeah, so thank you for that. That was really empowering. So our next guest, we have Alexander Volushin, and Alex has been in this for about 10 years now, financial services, and he is the F&G National Accounts Manager.
Thank you, guys. Oh my goodness. Let me make sure I have my water on deck here. Seems like all of a sudden I'm getting a scratchy throat. I got a 4-month-old at home, and it seems like ever since she decided to start going to daycare, well, she decided, you know, ever since I started sending her to daycare, she's been bringing home something, you know, that seems to keep getting me. But thank you guys for being here with me this afternoon. I'm going to make sure I hold this a little bit closer. As was mentioned, my name is Alex Voloshin. I'm the National Accounts Manager here at Fidelity and Guarantee. Right, been partnered with Freedom Equity Group quite literally at the hip. So I run around, I chase them just about everywhere they go, and all we're trying to do is to help others learn a little bit more and become a little bit more financially educated than they might have been when they first entered the room here earlier today. And so I'll be covering a bunch of stuff with you guys. I'm not going to talk too heavily about myself. I just want to, talk a little bit about the services that we have the opportunity to offer, right? And so hope you turn it up a little bit for me. So before I get into all of that, oh my goodness, we're really going through it all of a sudden. So before I get into all of that, right, who is F&G, right? We've heard a lot about these large life and annuity companies that have been out there, right? But who is Fidelity and Guarantee, right? We're kind of, in the grand scheme of things, one of the new kids on the block, if you look at it, right? We've been around since 1958, 1959, but the company has all of a sudden really taken off here in the past couple of decades, right? And since I've joined the company about 3 years ago, I've seen that just the company alone, from an assets under management perspective, has gone from it was like $35 billion all of a sudden in 3 years. We're jumping up to $71 billion here. I mean, so the company's absolutely taking off. We've seen from 2019 to 2023, 2024, that the industry has grown at about a 5% continual annual growth rate, right? But for whatever reason, F&G has been up there at around 32+%, right? So we're doing something unique. We're partnering with individuals and organizations exactly like this with Freedom Equity Group, right? To help people find that financial freedom, to help them turn their aspirations into reality. And so I remember years ago, right, when I wasn't at Fidelity and Guaranty, let's just call them my practice company, right? I remember starting off in my practice company. I started off as the lowest level that you could possibly go. I was answering the 800 number, helping as many people out. And all of a sudden, people would start sending me, hey, Alex, who's this purple and gold company, right? What do you know about them? And so I was like, oh, well, hey, at the time, right? This was, this is like 8 years ago now. The ratings were a little bit lower. And I'd say, oh, don't worry about the ratings, right? Don't worry about the ratings, and don't worry about the product. It doesn't look as competitive as what I have to offer today. And all of a sudden, over the years, I started seeing that F&G started having these really strategic partnerships, and the company got stronger and stronger. The products that they were offering got stronger and stronger. And so, we partner with some of the biggest organizations that are out there to make sure that we have extremely competitive products for each and every one of our holders to have, right? We partner with a big company, you might have heard of them, Blackstone, right, that's out there. Massive, massive organization. They help us get access to investments that average, ordinary people don't have the ability to. Right, when you have $71 billion in assets under management, of course, you're going to have the opportunity to get access to maybe investments with a little bit higher yield than what the general public would have the opportunity, to gain. Right, and because of that, we get to make some really cool promises in our products, right? But what I want to talk to you guys a little bit today is about what I call this complete protection umbrella, right? Because what Freedom Equity Group is an absolute master at is they're an absolute master at protecting people's wealth, helping them grow wealth, but ultimately, at the end of the day, protecting their wealth as well, right? And so when you look at this umbrella, there's always this protection umbrella, this big gap that I see in the industry that so many individuals aren't talking about, right? How can I protect my human capital, right? My ability to make money and things of that nature, right? If I go to a job every single day, right? How is it that I can make sure my family is protected? Heaven forbid I'm not there. Or, hey, what if I got sick and I'm no longer able to work? What can I do in a scenario like that? And then the other side of the coin is helping people protect their financial capital as well, right? So we do both, right? How is it that all of a sudden, if I'm going into my retirement and I have a huge market loss, what could I do to make sure that I'm not impacted by that market loss as heavily as maybe other people that are out there, right? So we're going to talk about these two topics really heavily today. And so what I'm going to kick it off with is what F&G likes to call the benefit dial. Right, so we're going to have a few conversations. At first they might seem a little bit uncomfortable, but just bear with me as we go through everything. Right, so when we look at things, what are some of our biggest concerns that we have? Right, what happens to my family after I'm gone? Right, I'm always concerned about this. After having a newborn, guys, I can't tell you how concerned this made me. Right, what's going to happen to my little girl if I don't make it home tonight, or my wife, when I was worried about my wife, but not as much, right? She's a doctor, she's able to take care of herself very, very well. She's a physical therapist. But I'm now extremely worried, right? What happens? Because how is my wife going to be able to take care of the baby and the household and provide for her, right? If I don't make it home. And then, how will I have enough money to make sure that I can actually afford my retirement, right? What are some strategies that I can use to make sure that I don't run out of my money during my retirement years? And then what happens if I get sick or become disabled sometime along the way, right? Some uncomfortable questions that we just see that Americans all across the United States aren't having, right? And this first one, it finally hit home here. I joined the industry because of family losses that I had when I was a kid. I became a little bit in touch with it, but unfortunately here just recently, I had a cousin of ours who has a 5-month-old and a wife, and she's 24 if memory serves me right. And just here the other day, he's driving to work, he went off the road and he hit a tree and died on impact. And the worst thing that I see is that all of a sudden now I'm having GoFundMes, show up, and of course we want to support them, right? But it's all because these questions, these conversations aren't making their way into our community, right? Because it isn't necessarily that they're the most fun conversations in the world, but they are conversations that we absolutely have to have. right? So, what are your hopes and your dreams for your family, right? How can we protect a legacy? As you progress in your career, the products and services that F&G can offer, right, they can protect the income, right, via life insurance, death benefit, things of that nature, and provide for your loved ones even after you're gone, right? Things like when you buy a house, or let's just say you get married, right, two lives come together. All of a sudden, life changes pretty significantly for you. What can I do to protect the foundation that I'm building upon, right? And then, hey, the house portion of everything, protecting the investment. Heaven forbid I don't make it home. I want to make sure that my wife and my daughter, I don't have to leave the home because they can't cover the mortgage payment anymore, right? A lot of uncomfortable questions that we have. We got to make sure that we protect our legacy. But moving on, right, what can I do to make sure, oh, and I jumped the gun on this, I think I clicked. So what can we do I drove too fast. Oh, bear with me, guys. Oh my goodness. A little bit slow here. All right, so prosper in retirement, right? The cool portion about these policies, these index universal life contracts that F&G has to offer is when you think about retirement, what do you actually think about, right? Do you think about spoiling your grandkids, right? Making sure that they have absolutely everything that they have, right? These policies, we actually heard about it from our senator here today. They have the opportunity to grow value inside of them. What do the uber wealthy seem to like to do? They like to take loans against equity that they've built elsewhere. Why? Because when they have the loan, they don't have to worry about the tax portions of everything. Well, guess what? The IUL policy that we have the opportunity to offer allows you to do exactly that. And these interest rates inside of these loans, these tactics that typically we only see the extremely wealthy have the opportunity to utilize, right? We're bringing it to everyday middle America. And so you can make sure that you get downside protection with this growth. You can diversify your retirement savings vehicles from a retirement savings perspective or even from a tax perspective that you have out there. So preparing for life's unexpected events is absolutely critical. This is what brought me into the industry here, guys, very early on. I started off in my practice company. I worked with, different financial advisors that were out there. I saw how the banks and what we call wirehouses did business. And all of a sudden, I started working with independent individuals, and I absolutely loved it. But unfortunately, once I started working with them, I got this phone call that came in one day, and somebody mentioned to me, hey, Alex, I need to make a claim. I was like, a claim on your life insurance policy, right? Like, oh, this person hasn't passed away here just yet. I was like, what are they doing? And he goes, no, I need to make a living benefits claim. And I go, really? Okay. I was like, I just started off. I was like, well, what is all of this? And so he's talking to me a little bit, and he explains to me, he says, hey, well, I became terminally ill here recently. And I go, okay, well, let me help you get the right claims paperwork. I look it up, I send it over to him, and all of a sudden, next thing I know, he's sending it back, and I say, hey, you know what, you help me out with a lot of things here, and you're always really kind when you call in. Let me go take this to the individuals that make the decisions on all this stuff and get it processed a little quicker than normal. And so I'm talking to this individual, and I'm asking him, I say, hey, why is it that you're taking a claim now instead of waiting for the full amount to be paid out to your loved ones? And he goes, Alex, I got these three wishes. So he grew up in the New York area, and he said that when I was growing up, right, we'd go to this lake, and we did tent camping, but across every single night, I could see the lights shining across the water, and I could see these beautiful lake homes that were on the other side, and I always prayed that one day maybe I'll be able to have one of those homes to leave as a memory for my family. The other one that he said, really, if at the minimum, I just want to have a little bit of money that I can give to my loved ones so that they can take a sabbatical from work and they can stay with me in my final days. And then the last one, the one that really got me, especially now that I'm a father, is he said, my daughter's getting married in 14 months. And I was diagnosed with about 8 months to live, I believe he said. And so, as it sees fit, I'm not going to be there to walk my little girl down the aisle on her wedding day. And when I got to tell him out of his $1 million policy that he was going to receive $980,000 cash in hand, you can almost hear the gasp on the other side of the phone, right? He turned around, he paid for his family to have a sabbatical. They were able to stay with him in his final days. He bought that dream home in upstate New York, right, on the lake. And the last thing he did is he accelerated his daughter's wedding, got it planned in 4 months, and he was there to walk his little girl down the aisle on her wedding day. And it's all because of these products and services that we have the ability to offer, these conversations that just don't seem to be making it inside of people's homes because, well, maybe they just don't fit really well on a spreadsheet somewhere, right? So you don't hear about all of them. But what we're doing is absolutely crucial for people, and this is what really drugged me into the life insurance industry. So make sure that we can leave a legacy that our families can count on, right? Go out there, help us turn your aspirations into reality, right? Prosper in retirement. Don't worry about running out of money before you get to the end. And then look at these living benefits, right? They can help you face these chronic, critical, and terminal illnesses, right, that you have. Major organ transplant, stroke, heart attack, right, and even more, right? So a lot of really cool stuff. But all of this, right, the whole point of all of this is to make sure that our clients can have it all, right? They can have their aspirations. They can leave their legacy, right? They can make sure that they have enough money while they're living to cover the bills. Heaven forbid something were to go sideways, right? We don't want them, when you're not working, what happens? All of a sudden you stop generating income in a lot of scenarios, right? But with the products that we offer, that doesn't have to be a scenario in your household. So, leaving a legacy, turn your aspirations, right, into reality, and make sure that you're preparing for the unexpected is the name of the game here. But this is all just one half of this protection umbrella that we're talking about, right? We also want to go out there and help out individuals protect their financial capital as well. And this one's really near and dear to my heart because the benefits of annuities, unfortunately I saw this come into my own household with my father here, right? So before I get into all of that, right, what is an annuity? Well, hey, they have the opportunity to make sure that you can grow your funds, you can protect them from market downturns, you don't have to worry about the market going negative and losing a portion of your retirement overnight. And depending on the product that you go out there and pick, we can even make sure that you can never outlive your income for as long as you live, right? You can have no value left inside of this product and still receive a guaranteed income stream for the rest of your life, right? Those are the promises that we have the opportunity to make individuals. Because this is about retirement income that you can count on, right? You're gonna help your clients know exactly how much they'll have, what portion of their income is gonna be guaranteed, what's protected from market downturns. You can even build it to last a lifetime, right? So a lot of really good benefits with these indexed annuities as well. And so I just wanna take a moment to look at this, right? And I'm gonna talk about this section here real quick, is what we've done is we've put $100,000 in the S&P 500, and then we put $100,000 in our annuity that tracks based off of that S&P 500, but has a 10.5% cap, right? 10.5% max growth, but the annuity promises that you're not gonna lose a dime in this scenario, right? So as you can see, all of a sudden, our money's growing pretty comparatively if it was in the S&P or if it was, in our indexed annuity here. But then all of a sudden, what happened? 2008 rolled around. We can see that our funds that were inside that S&P 500 had lost significant value just overnight, right? All of a sudden, we have less than what we had even put in. And now, if we had to rebuild then, is that when we wanted to have retirement, we may not be able to retire at all. So what do? We keep rebuilding, right? We keep rebuilding, and all of a sudden, 2017, 2018 came. You can see once again the power of what we call the annual reset happens, and all of a sudden my annuity stays flat, but my funds inside that S&P came down. But we all know, right, there's always a reason we diversify our portfolio. We have stocks, we have these different financial defensive products that are out there, is because sometimes things can outpace, right? I can have a little bit more for growth potential. But then, here, once again, 2021, we had a large market downturn again, and next thing I know, my annuity has more value inside of it than my portfolio did in this case. And so here's where a little story about my own family comes into play. So, I told you I started working for F&G right around then, right? And the worst thing that, in my opinion, that's happened is that I saw my father, who had just retired, right? He was working with an advisor out there who had some funds and some more aggressive, tolerances. My dad, of course, he accepted this, right? So he doesn't blame anybody for any of it. But all of a sudden, his portfolio, he lost $300,000 in a matter of months. And all of a sudden, the retirement that he thought he was going to have, all the vacations to see family in Germany and things of that nature, they all changed, right? They changed in the blink of an eye. And now he had to be more conscious. And what happens, right? I remember sitting there, I can see it like it was yesterday. I'm sitting on the couch, I came home for Christmas, I'm talking to my old man, and I look over, and all of a sudden I see one of these purple and gold policy jackets sitting on his desk. Purple and gold policy jackets, it was an F&G annuity. And I was like, Dad, I don't have the opportunity. I can't sell to quite literally anybody but my immediate family. There's like 8 people that I could have ever sold a product to, right? And you're one of them. And you didn't even talk to me after I told you that I was working for F&G, right? I was like, you kidding me, right? So these policies, these products, they're making their way into our families' homes, whether you're the one that's supplying them or not, right? And I just find it so funny that all of a sudden my dad, who I had told and consulted and said, hey, should I take this job, this, that, and the other thing, what do you think about the company? Please research it for me, right? One of these guys that I convey a lot of my life into, right, didn't even reach out to his own son to talk about what he was getting, right? But at the same time, I was extremely stoked because I do know the benefits of all these products and things of that nature. And I said, no, keep going through with it. Work with your advisor. Obviously, they're doing something right here. But the main goal of annuity is protecting assets, right? And we go out there and we protect our assets with insurance in all kinds of different ways, right? How many of us have renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance, right? We all have it, right? A lot of us have it. But hey, there's only a 0.26% chance we're going to have a house fire next year and lose everything, right? Or how many of us, maybe we go out there, we protect our lives with temporary insurance, term insurance, right? A lot of families do that, but here's the tricky thing, is 99% of term policies don't pay out at the end of the day. Or how many of us have to go out there and have car insurance, right? All of us, right? If we have a car, we should have car insurance. But hey, 4.2% chance that you're going to have an auto insurance claim next year. But when we look at the market, there's a 26% chance that the market's going to go down next year, right? So a lot of these woes, these problems that we have here going through our retirement, or whether it's protecting our family and our loved ones, right, from our unexpected passing, or if we get sick along the way, right, we have the opportunity to really do it all. So when you're looking at your products, right, these index annuities, the thing I want you to take home with you today is, hey, here's a product that can eliminate market loss, has the opportunity for you to participate in the upside market potential, and at the same time, depending on what you set up for, you can create an income for life that you're never going to outlive, right? And the last thing I want to talk to you guys, maybe there's any business owners here in the room, any business owners, right? Well, if you guys do know any business owners, these products, right, you can help business owners with them as well. There's even some tax advantage savings and things of that nature when you use these, right? Whether it's buy-sell agreements to make sure, heaven forbid, a partner were to pass away, the family doesn't have to work with lawyers, right, to determine business valuations, right? There's different bonus arrangements that are out there, key person coverage for businesses, and even SEP IRAs that they can set up through our services, right? But with all that being said, guys, this is all for you guys today. This is just all about education, talking about the side of the industry that we just simply don't hear much about. And if you have any questions, I'd love to address them. But overall, I just want to say thank you. We can pass this back to him and see if needed.
Thanks, everybody. And next we're going into questions and answers, but we're also going to be opening the food too. So take a 5-minute break, and we can get back, or we can start the questions now.
No, whatever. Yeah,
We'll do the question now and then the food later.
Okay. So we're going to go into questions and answers.
And anybody have questions, no worries, I'm an open book, right?
Yep.
So
For,
just feel free to fire away.
Alex, I'll get you back to it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I need it forever for some odd reason. I was just fine this morning. You can ask everybody that was here. And no worries. I know it's sometimes hard to ask a question on things that you don't know. Yeah, Beth, tell me.
When you're paying into this product, whichever product that you're doing, whether it's monthly, annually, and having forbid you lose your job.
Yeah.
What happens then if you still want to continue?
Yeah. So the beautiful thing. So let's just say that you were putting funds into an annuity. No worries. The funds still have the opportunity to grow. There's nothing wrong. It's just less money inside of there, right, for growth moving forward. No worries. When you get into the index universal life insurance portion of everything, depending on how you've structured your policy, and that's why I always say work with the professionals that are around and here, is that when you put enough money in, right, you may be able to stop or pause payments completely, right? These are not necessarily products that you have to pay for the rest of your life, right? You can set them up that way, or we can put more money inside of them than what's absolutely needed, and all of a sudden, when we do fall on hard times, taking a few months off is no big deal, right? And we do see a lot of individuals that do set them up to where they could just pause payments indefinitely, right? They might pay 5 years and just be done, right? They might pay 10 years and just be done. It just all depends on what makes sense for your unique financial situation and how fast you want to get started. Great question, Beth. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
What is the difference between annuity and term life insurance? What
Ye-
is-
Yeah, so think of an annuity as a way to ensure your retirement, right? I'm gonna likely have the opportunity to make the promise to you where, hey, I've promised that this policy and the funds that you put into it, if it was an annuity, to never lose any value. Whereas term life insurance is really there to make sure that, hey, heaven forbid I don't make it home tonight, right? My family's gonna have a large lump sum check that shows up in their mailbox, restoring their financial independence and security after they lost your human capital, right? Your ability to grow and provide for your family. Good, excellent question.
And just a follow-up to that.
Yeah.
What are some of the advantages of using annuity and what is the terms? What is the withdrawal terms of the annuity?
Yeah, so depending on the annuity that you pick, right? You know, the insurance companies, I like to say they're upside down, right? Usually it's anywhere from 5, 7, or 10 years. So they might say, hey, if you put the funds inside of here, because we're going to promise they're not going to lose any value, right? So we're taking on a significant amount of risk to make sure that that doesn't happen. They might say, hey, we won't give you access to everything you have in the first 5 years if you were to leave us, right? Only if you are to leave us, right? And so, or you wanted to take your money out early. The cool thing about a lot of F&G's annuities is that they have provisions put in place inside of them to make sure that if you needed access to, let's just say 10%, right, of the funds, you can get access to that amount without any penalties, right? But it just depends on the product that you set up for yourself and what makes sense, right? Sometimes if you just want to say, hey, I have this old 401k from an old job that I was working at, let me put this rollover into an annuity. I'm not going to touch this for like the next 10 years. Well, okay, because you're not going to touch it for the next 10 years, we're going to give you the opportunity to grow even more than we would if you said, I'm not going to touch it for 7 years, right? So it just depends on kind of what you're looking at. But really good question. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Anything else? Any other questions from the audience?
Sorry.
No, you're okay. My time is up. No, you're fine. Hey, I just want to say thank you. Thank you guys for all being here. Thanks for just, learning a little bit of something today. But let me pass this back to the MC. I'm going to be around if you have any questions that you didn't feel comfortable asking right here, right now. Just feel free to find me. Happy to help.
All right. So, who's hungry? People hungry? Are we going to open up the food or we have, okay, we're going to close it off. So we're going to close it off and we have Kaying Wang, and Kaying is with FG and he's the Executive National Vice President. So thank you, Kaying.
Thank you, Alex, as well, too. Basically, if you guys want me to summarize it, my name is Kaying, and I've been in Freedom Equity Group for about 9 years, okay? So to summarize what Alex talked about, if you live too long, if you die too soon, or if you get sick, you might want to talk with one of the agents here today. Does that make sense? Most people are going to do one of the three. You just don't know when one of the three is going to happen. So I want to bring up the dedicated Vermont team of licensed agents up here so you know who they are. So the Vermont team, can I have you guys come up? Okay, everybody give them a hand as they come up here. Okay, so everyone here is the dedicated team that we have here in Vermont. They're all licensed in Vermont. They're all licensed to serve. I've learned this business that the most important thing is to serve the community you live in and to serve the people you love. I want to leave you guys with one quote. The one thing I learned when I first met the CEO of Fidelity Guaranteed Life, he said that as long as people love each other, there will always be a need for insurance. And that's true to today. So thank you guys. Thanks for coming out to our event. There is food back there. There's also a survey. If you guys can fill that survey and hand it to the people at the front desk, we appreciate it. So let's have a great night, okay? Thank you.